guys, so today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different for this channel. I'm going to be doing a book review of the third and final instalment in the Divergent series by Veronica Roth, which is Allegiant. This video is actually being filmed a little bit later than the 20th of October. This book came out on the 22nd, but I left a gap here because I knew I was running about a week late in my uploads, and I really wanted to post a review of this book as soon as I could and as soon as I'd finished reading it, which I have done. I finished it this morning, and I thought I would do a review for you guys. If you are not familiar with the Divergent series, I will give you a little bit of a rundown. First of all, I should mention as well, I am a massive fan of the first two, so that's the reason why I'm doing this book review. The first two books I absolutely loved, and I read them super quickly, as I did this one. Veronica Roth, I didn't actually know this until I started reading this book. She's younger than me, which is pretty incredible. She has like three, well, this isn't best-selling yet, but I'm pretty sure it will be best-selling. And yeah, she has 3 amazing books. That's a pretty incredible accomplishment for somebody of that age. Anyway, without further ado, a bit of an intro. If you haven't read the Divergent series, if you like The Hunger Games or Maze Runner, any kind of teen fiction, dystopian, society-based books, then you will probably love this series. This is actually, I think this is my favourite out of all 3 of those, because even though I love The Hunger Games, I thought the first book was so much better than the next 2 books that it kind of made me a bit, I don't know, it left me a little bit disappointed. Anyway, so Divergent is based in a futuristic dystopian version of Chicago, and you're not exactly sure kind of when it's taking place, but there's this strange society which is built up on the basis of 5 different factions. And these 5 factions are based on the fundamental kind of attributes of human nature, I guess, as they've been identified by this society. So there is Dauntless, which is based on bravery. There's Amity, which is based on kindness and friendliness. There is Abnegation, which is based on selflessness. There is Erudite, which is based on intelligence. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I never know. You know when you read books and you never have to pronounce something? Yeah, like that. And then there is Candor, which is based on being truthful. So obviously with any of these kind of books, it's a little bit of a strange setup, and you do question in the beginning, like, why do they not kind of wonder what is outside their city? Which they do by the 3rd book, but in the beginning you're kind of just learning about the society. So the story is based around Beatrice, who later becomes Triss. She is a 16-year-old girl who is going through the process of choosing which faction she is going to be part of, because they have a choosing ceremony at 16. So you see Triss having this kind of emotional dilemma of whether or not to leave her parents, which faction to join. She ends up joining Dauntless, and the first book is mainly about her kind of development and her experience of joining this new faction and what happens. In the 2nd book, you see more problems arise, and a war kind of starts to begin. And in the 3rd book, which is Allegiant, you see the war within the city kind of start to develop, but you also see some of the characters leaving the city to see what lies beyond. And I am not going to ruin it for you guys if you haven't read it before. However, just a little bit of a like run through the book. I personally loved this. I thought it was a bit slow at the beginning, but I think this is mainly because I hadn't read the other books for over a year, so I was kind of reminding myself of the story and reconnecting with the characters, because I feel like when you've read a book, immediately afterwards you feel so attached to the characters, but you kind of forget about them, and you forget kind of who's done what in the past, especially when you're reading a series like this where you've read 2 books before but you haven't read them for a while, and you're trying to pick up where you left off, because this actually starts immediately after the 2nd book has finished, so you are kind of expected to just pick up where you left off, which is why I would recommend, if you haven't read any of these books at all yet, I'd recommend reading them now, because they make so much better sense when you're reading them like right next to each other. So it took me a while to kind of get into the story. I got totally hooked about a quarter of the way through and read the rest in like lightning speed, because you just want to devour it. It's one of those stories, it's not that hard to read. It isn't actually that long a book if you look at the size of the print. It is fairly big, so it didn't take me too long to read it, but I did really enjoy it. I felt like she could have gone a little bit further into the history of why their society exists. There was a lot of kind of, without ruining the story, I'm trying to like think how I can say this, but although they do kind of learn a lot more about why they're there and why their society exists. It doesn't go much further into the history of the world that they're living in, which I would have really loved it to do. I feel like if there was a fourth book, it could do that, although the end does kind of round the whole story up very well. I saw on Twitter and online in general that there has been a lot of kind of bad feeling towards this book because the ending, without ruining anything, the ending isn't all roses, and I feel like a lot of people when they're reading books want there to be a happy ending, which is fair enough, and this book doesn't have the worst ending, but there are sad things that happen, and I wasn't too disappointed by it, really. I felt like I don't know, I felt like the author was quite brave to feel strong enough to end a book in that way without giving away what happens, because I feel like there is a lot of pressure to it for it to be, you know, all, oh, and everyone lived happily ever after. So I think she was quite brave to finish it in that way, and I still really enjoyed the book. What I do think is when this is made into a movie, which it is going to be, I think it's this year or next year, the first one's going to come out, I think they're going to struggle with keeping the same ending when they make this into a movie, because I feel like there's even more pressure in films to end on like a happy note. So I'll be interested to see if they change the plot of the movie actually. But all in all, like, I really enjoyed this book. I would definitely recommend it, and the Divergent series in general. Massive thanks to Elle from All That Glitters, because she was the one that introduced me to this series way back when I started reading it. I don't know when it was. It was over a year ago, I'm sure, but I read the first books within like a day each. I absolutely loved them. So a big thanks to her for recommending them. If you haven't read them at all, I would definitely recommend the series because it is really gripping, and it's, I don't know, I feel like in a way I'm too old to be reading like teen fiction, but I just absolutely love that genre of writing. I just find it really interesting. It's really easy to read, and yeah, just generally really enjoyable, and I can't wait to see the movies. And if you have read the other two, you definitely need to read the third one. If you loved the first book and after you read the second book, you're gonna love this one. So if you read my blog, or if you don't read my blog, then I am actually having a giveaway. I'm giving away 20 copies of this. So if you do want to read it and you want to be in with a chance of winning a free one, then I'll put a link below and you guys can head over to my blog and find out how to win one. All you have to do is write a comment, basically. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you tomorrow when I will be back on my normal daily vlogging form. Bye guys!
Morning guys, it's Vlogtober day 19. It's actually not morning either. Good afternoon guys.